Hotep family, you're tuning into the pro-black perspective on KWAZ radio, and of course we're going to continue with reading the Book of Power. This time we're going to go to page 185, so if you'll join me, much obliged. And remember that if you're trying to read along with me and you're saying to yourself, hey, I don't have this book, the download, the preview that I'm reading from is freely available, okay? So if you want to get that preview, just click on the link in the description or go to the Discord, join the Discord, say hi or whatever. But there's going to be a section where it says free books and previews, and you're welcome to engage in, I would say, over 100 ebooks. All right, one of them being this preview. But for now, we're going to jump into this, right? Oh, actually, first, let me just clear up the air. Make sure you check out the other programs on KWAZ Radio, as well as, just the other podcasts for the people who are participating in the discussion. So obviously KWAZ Radio has the Harsh Reality podcast, which features, very, intelligent brothers going over the different subjects of the day. And of course, the Bitter Medicine podcast has Brother Koku, who is formulating curriculum for African people at home and abroad, right? And obviously, like I said, there's a whole bunch of other channels. You know where they are, but definitely check out as much as you can, because learning is earning, let's say, right? And let's just jump right into it. Okay, so Yosef Ben Yakinen, a cracker is a pecker. So some of you'll notice that I'm not live today, and so that's why I'm sounding a little bit different, but it is what it is, right? So Baba, affectionately called Baba Ben, right, was an associate of John Henry Clark, but he was an African nationalist, Garveyite, where John Henry Clark was a soi disant African socialist, right? In this way, Baba represented a Garveyite Ourstorian in the late 20th century WP. So that's something that I think is really important that people have to recognize, and that is that, there's African nationalism and then there's African socialism, and African nationalism is Garveyism, So a lot of us, the ones that I would encourage you to engage the study of Garveyism. The books that are out there, obviously, Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. Now, I didn't even know about this. I got me a copy. It's about the same price as the Book of Power, so, also check that book out. But it's called More Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. You have Message to the People, obviously. You have Race First. You have Garvey and Garveyism. And there's a whole slew of other books. But the point is that if you're trying to engage in what is the fundamentals, the root of African nationalism, definitely check out Garvey. Now, John Henry Clark was not a Garveyite. He was a socialist, and you would pick up on this if you really paid attention. And so, but that's why, even though John Henry Clark is very well spoken, and Yosef Ben Yakinen kind of jokes a lot, you still got to give Yosef Ben Yakinen the props, because ideology is very important. Ideology should not be underestimated. In fact, in this discussion, we're going to talk about how important ideology and philosophy is for a people, and why, because they're so important, we can really change the future of our race, right? But anyway, let's keep going. So unfortunately, much of the content centered... Oh, yeah, so here's an issue, again, with Baba Ben. Well, some people actually call him Dr. Ben, but I don't like using a doctor and so forth. But I should have probably used doctor here, though. But Africans, but yeah, a lot of his content centered around spiritualism, aka religions. I don't really like dealing with religions. And many Africans desired his insight on that subject. We're the original Jews and blah, 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 blah. Nonsense, I would say, right? So as such, you'd have to wade through, but for good reason, okay? So he's good content. Here, Baba teaches that you need to think strategically. And without strategy, you will continually miss the mark in terms of what to do. Like a fool, you'll want to attack where your enemies are least vulnerable. That's the confusion your enemies promote. And that's something that's really the basis of, that's what people want. They want you to attack where they're least vulnerable. It's like, it's like if you're trying to start up a fight with somebody, right? Or if somebody's trying to goad you into a fight, right? They will be goading you into a fight because they know that they can beat you in that particular environment, in that particular setting, right? So that's why you don't attack them there and then, but you do a tactical retreat and you attack them somewhere else, or you attack them in some other way. And that's also, a very powerful tool. That's also a very powerful tool, and that's why. And we're actually gonna talk about this because recently the president of Haiti was assassinated, and that also ties in with strategy and so on and so forth, right? But see, like a fool, you will want to attack where your enemies are least vulnerable. That's the confusion your enemies promote. One of the months of the Yankobia is named after Mutapa because the nation understood kill the Eurasians. Okay, that's one thing. Kill the Eurasians. You need to understand the same. Now, obviously, like I said, you don't want to just say it, but the reality is this, right? You talk about Mutapa, right? And Baba Ben is going to talk about it. But Mene Mutapa was like, kill the Eurasians. Like the Mene Mutapa, the individual, was like, kill the Eurasians. And they were free. You understand? There's a difference between people who say, you know what, no, we got to respect the lives of the organization that's opposed to our nationality. Right, that's opposed to our nationhood. We got to preserve their lives, and in so doing, you're essentially aiding. Essentially, when you do that, you are a traitor. You understand? When you do that, you're a traitor. Now, obviously, there are people who are not going to necessarily. There are going to be foreigners who are not necessarily against your nationhood status, right? And therefore, you don't necessarily have to be, too aggressive with them. But there are like what Mene Mutapa, people Mene Mutapa attack are the missionaries. The people who, and now you see what's going on in Africa. But you understand that these missionaries are trying to subjugate and subdue your people. Okay? And if you peep game, then that's it. Now there's going to be some people who are not necessarily trying to subjugate your people. There's going to be people who just want to, just rest their heads on their way to another country. But then there are also people who do want to subjugate and take your land and take away your authority. And if you're aiding them, then you're effectively being a traitor. That's probably why we would call you a Scotty. But let's keep going. You need to understand the same. It's popular to whine about police brutality or this or that, but you need to realize that your enemies would kill your kids to get you to stop whatever they don't like you doing, right? And you got to just think about Gaddafi here. Now, obviously, I'm not, like I said, Gaddafi's a Eurasian as well, right? He's undermining the sovereignty of the Libyan people, the Afro-Libyan people in Libya. So I'm not necessarily his friend, but the point is that the Westerners killed his children. You understand? Killed his children. This, and I mean, I just use his example because it's a popular example. I'm not really, but and I don't, long story short, this is something that usually or normally happens. Or even, let me say it this way. I'm watching this, so like I told you guys, I have Quelly TV. Quelly TV has the documentary, or not documentary, the film Njinga, okay? Or Jinga, okay? And it's based around, obviously, the historical figure of Njinga, right? Here's the thing with that. Her brother becomes the king, and as the king, he goes into her hut, right? No, he sends guards into her hut. They take her kid and kill him. You understand? Because they understand that he could threaten the kinghood, or he could take the kinghood from Njinga's. Yeah, he could take the kinghood from him, right? Njinga's son could take the kinghood. Now, here's another thing. Eventually, Njinga's son is also killed. Now, Njinga says it wasn't her, right? Some people believe it was. Some people believe it wasn't. But the point being that, the reality is that that's what people do. Like, that's the way of people. Humans go like go for where you are weak. You understand? This is something that is done. This is something that, as a father, as a baba, I have to, bear the reality of that too. Understand that, hey, in a situation, people might want to use even my family as leverage. For a long time, I was like, I don't even want to do, I don't even want to show my face because, like, my parents or something, obviously, whatever. But the point is that that's a reality of this world. That's something that we observe even in Africa. Now, obviously, the Europeans are around there, hovering around there, so it's possible the Europeans killed, the rightful heir or whatever. It's possible that Jenga wasn't involved with that. But the point being that these are things that happen, and if it's without the situation of the white folk, if the white folk had no influence, let's pretend white people had no influence, because we know this is during a time of white people, and white people doing subterfuge and all that kind of stuff and installing puppets and blah 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 blah. So we know that they're stirring up conflict and all that. So we know that white people have some involvement. But if we assume white people didn't have any involvement, then it's saying, hey, look, this is a part of human nature, right? If we're saying that white people do have an involvement, we're saying this is a part of what white people do. Okay? So your kids are still not safe. You understand? But see, here's the difference between your kids and their kids. Their kids are safe. Why? Why are your kids unsafe and their kids safe? And how would you be respected as a man or a woman if that's the case? You understand? I don't necessarily respect this guy, because he's a white boy. I don't really respect white folk. But this white man had his kid was like molested by this other white man, and the authorities had him. They arrested him. They were walking him through a hallway, and this dude in undercover, and whole disguise, point blank shot the dude. Right on the guy's way to jail or whatever. He got his jail sentence. Point blank shot the dude and then surrendered to the police. But that's what it's supposed to be. Because see, what protects your kids is you. Your kids are not safe, period. What protects your kids is you and your community. And that's why you want a community that protects your kids. I want to actually say this, because here's something that's really weighing on my chest. I'm going to be honest with you, because I'm in this I'm in this neighborhood that's not really like I said, I don't engage with these people because they're not of our ethnic group. But I say to myself, what if I were to go to a black neighborhood? That would be much better. But then I also say to myself, let's say in America, in a black neighborhood, every 5 seconds you're hearing about a kid being kidnapped, a kid being lost. Oh, my kid's missing. So you say to yourself, you want your kid to be out there hanging around, running around, stress free. You ain't watching them because you busy doing the other thing, and you expect the community to be watching the kid, right? But if the kids keep ended up missing, then why would you do that? You understand? Why would you trust a community that cannot be trusted with their own children? You understand? There is a lot going on. There's a lot going on, but the point is that there's a lot of thinking going on as well, and you got to think too, and that's what I'm going to ask of you. But yeah, they kill kids and they'll stop whatever you're doing, and that's just the reality. So how many times? And look at this: how many times has a wife of a man been tortured, captured, killed, or abused to get to her husband? That's another commonality. Your Asians play dirty and tactically. You can't afford to play clean and stupid. Then wonder why you're where you're at. You understand? Read this twice and read Zubiri and the Moons of Ma'ah, the Ankobia book from Mwezi wa Zimbabwe 3 times. Now, remember that. Read Zubiri and the Moons of Ma'ah 3 times. That's a good book. Go read it, because that's a brother who's navigating the world tactically and intelligently, with wisdom and intelligence, with discipline and charm. That's a brother with strength and physique. You understand? That's our brother. I want you to go and read that book. All right. But let's see. Baba outlines the basis of African ethnic groups and the premise of forming yourself into the Ankobia people. See, he says the basis of ethnic groups is philosophy. And that's why you want to form yourself into the Ankobia people. I was talking to these brothers. For the Discord, I verify people, and I have a little private verified chat. And I verify people. And I'm talking to these brothers. And, everybody has black people have so many good people among us. And we can't all work in the same locale. You understand? Well, we can work, like we have a calling. Somebody has a calling, in Central Africa. Somebody has a calling in Eastern. And somebody has a calling in Southern and so on. We can do that. You can answer that calling and then work together. You understand? And we work together on the lines of a political education. And this is a political education. Under the lines of a philosophy. I quoted Thomas Sankara earlier. Thomas Sankara says, any soldier that doesn't have a political education is a potential criminal. And so we were talking about whether bourgeoisie, are inherently bad, whether businessmen are inherently bad. And some people believe they are. If you believe the Marxist line, you believe, oh yeah, they're inherently exploitative. And here's the issue. Here's the issue I want you to understand. Is that the quote that Thomas Sankara said about soldier being a potential criminal without a political education, that applies to a businessman as well. A businessman without a political education, a patriotic political education, is a potential criminal. You understand? Basically, you are going to act within the confines of your patriotism, of your political education. There's this podcaster, like I said, go check out the other podcasts, Revolutionary Matron, Organic African Paradigm, and of course, Amma Bookman has her podcast. And I want to say I was listening to Amma Bookman's podcast, and she had this interview with this Yoruba historian, right? The dude was such a patriot, such a Yoruba patriot. He was just extreme. Remember, it's Ile Eko Omoluabi, right? But the dude was just such an extreme, he writes his whole Yoruba history, but he just goes on and on about how the Yoruba were the first people, and the first Yoruba created the freaking planet. The planet was just a bunch of water, and then they just took some dirt out of their pocket and they came from the sky and created the whole planet, including created all the land, including the islands, this is what he believes. He's like, the reason why there's so much Yoruba expressions all over the world is because the Yoruba are natural leaders. Most of the revolutions that happen in the Americas and the diaspora, the Yoruba are just so great. That's a patriot. You understand? If his level of education, his political education, is towards a business, his business is going to be pro-Yoruba. You understand? If he is a soldier, his soldiering, his warring is going to be pro-Yoruba because he has a patriotic political education. What Sankara is encouraging now, what the patriotism has to be is not necessarily on a small ethnic group, but on a philosophical group, on the highest stage of African consciousness, the Ankobia. You understand? When you have that, and that's the kind of patriotism I want you to be a patriot towards our philosophies. You see? And I want you to create the patriots towards our philosophies. I was minding my business on Twitter. His brother at me, Well, I don't know if it's a brother or sister, but it's the Ethiopian embassy. Ethiopian embassy. I'm going to show you guys this. Ethiopian embassy ats me. Which is for me, that's pretty damn impressive, right? I'll show you guys, hold on a second. I'll show you this thing. So I'm going to internet. So this is Amma Bookman's channel, Ile Eko Omoluabi. This is the Yoruba people past and present interview, right? So that's the one. But anyway, this is my YouTube. So I'm minding my business, And then this happens, right? I'm telling you. So the Ethiopian embassy is like from Adwa in 1896 to Gerd in 2021. So 2021 Gerd. It's actually a pretty impressive project. And this is why I want you to understand politics, because this is a pretty impressive project. We're fighting to divide our right in the place. Earlier was with the foreigners. Now, sadly, with the Egyptian, blah, blah, blah. Now, look at this right here. He says, where were you most needed us? Now we need you, right? And he's adding people. Pan-African unity, okay. Pan-African unity, Pan-African UK, Afro-Pan. Then Barack Obama. And then it's like Cornel West. And it's like Onitaset. And I'm like, wait, what? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? But I accept it. I say, you know what? This is, I look into it, and they're making their own hydroelectric dam, right? And of course now Egyptian and Sudanese government is going against it. But allegedly the look, by the research, this dam is going to benefit at least the Sudanese, as well as you would expect the Horn, among other things. But it's going to power a lot. But Egypt is opposed to it. But this is also an ancient conflict. And this is an ancient conflict in the sense of African people. Like that region of the world always seemed to fight over this dam. Always seem to fight over this Nile. But there are the Pan-African solutions we need to support. Ethiopia is constructing a dam the size of New York City, allegedly, right? That's pretty big. That can provide clean energy in Africa. But because we're not united, other nations are resisting this step forward. And you want to. Look, let's look into that. But the point on politics has to stand. And hopefully I'll connect that a little later. But the point on philosophy, like again, you have this hydroelectric energy. Now you have Africa producing cheaper energy, and there is going to be a resistance. These people. The embassy is assuming that it's a Western-backed resistance. And it possibly can be. Because now if you're an energy producer in Africa and you're giving cheaper energy to different African countries, you understand? You understand? Now you're diverting the wealth of Africa from exiting, needlessly, and you're diverting it back to Africa. And if African people, and I had this conversation, and like I said, you could join the Discord, you could check it out. But I had this conversation with this embassy about what they can do, because they asked me. They say, hey, they told me to DM them. They said DM me, right? Because I was like, I was explaining, let me see if I can find it actually. So what you want to do is you go to 2048. That's a good number right there, right? That's like a nice number, like divisible by 2 and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so let's see if we can find it. Yeah, I said, these are the important geopolitical solutions we need to rally behind. Africa's largest hydroelectric dam in the hands of Pan-Africanists is what we need, So he said, DM me. And he was asking me, how to get the stuff out. And I was telling him, I was like, look, about how we rally for a thing. But this is why I talk about the patriotic education, because you can't have this, even though Ethiopia is paying for the whole thing, right? And that's already a problem. But because when you're and that's why I'm saying this is a political questions. Because political questions, I explained this as political questions and concessions, because other people are going to support you if they can get some cheap energy. Other people can support you if there's some other benefit. So apparently in Sudan, and this is obviously old Sudan, right? But in Sudan, the Nile floods every like once a year, and they can regulate this with this dam, as well as provide a lot of energy and so on and so forth. But the point being that if you are only a patriot, like if this was just an Ethiopia, no one else is going to side with it. But if you're saying, hey, look, we're going to give cheap energy to this country and that country and this place and that place, right? You can get more support. You can get more rally. But you have to follow up. And of course you say, well, more jobs, because you said it's about the size of New York City. You understand? I live in New York City. You could, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people that can fit in New York City. So, again, what we have to do is we have to find ourselves where we need to be on the continent and coordinate with each other and benefit each other. You know, this energy could be diverted to another part of Africa, right? That other part of Africa now, or like another Encobia enclave. Now we are providing energy, and we got and then we have an industrial project we want to undertake, and we want it with cheap energy, and we got that contract. There's so much that we can do if we really get to it. So we just have to get to it, right? But all right, let's keep going. Baba outlines the basis of African ethnic groups and the premise of forming yourself into the Encobia people. You need to seek and develop a boko. So that's what we need, a boko, a place of worship, whether digital, physical, or spiritual. Then do as our people always did. Come together for philosophical reasons. You get what I'm saying? So we're going to be like, it don't matter where you are. We could be one people, okay? And we could work together. We could be patriots for our people. Promote the works of our people. Promote the projects of our people, and move forward in that sense. And if the continent is circulating this sort of ideology, this sort of higher consciousness among ourselves, right? Then all over the continent, we will have that Pan-Africanism. We will have that unity. Talking to these brothers earlier, and I was like, there's no, like Nkrumah said, there's no unity. Like, unity presupposes organization. There's no unity without organization. Nations are just a higher stage of organization. Okay? Nations are just a higher stage of organization, but there's no unity. I forgot to change the page. There's no unity without organization. All right? Let's see. All right. So, place of worship, blah, blah, blah. So this time, however, the philosophy will be the highest stage of consciousness and African high culture once again. A cracker is a pecker. That must mean something to you, particularly when you understand what a nation is. So as you progress in the book, I'm going to keep giving you a better definition of a nation because I want it to build up. But, obviously if you had the book, you would appreciate it better. But here you have it, right? A nation is a mutual aid society for racial elites, and which peckers are strategic peckers. So this is one of the most important things you have to understand. This is what I was trying to tell the embassy as well. I was saying, you want to benefit the ruling class and the ruled class. You understand? You want to benefit the ruling class and the ruled class simultaneously. If you say that we're offering you jobs and we're offering you energy, we're offering you cheaper energy, you're saying, hey, look. And then you say, with the money that we save through the energy that we're producing, we're going to use that money towards so-and-so, right? When you start articulating in that way, right, the whole Pan-African community is going to be watching and saying, yeah, that's what it is. Now, if you're just saying, hey, look, and of course, I'm not saying that they're saying this, but but like I said, like the Patriot, you go to the Yoruba example, right? If you're just, this is only for Yoruba, I don't care for none of other people, I'm just Yoruba, right? Then nobody outside of Yoruba land is going to support you. Now, maybe you have enough people in Yoruba land to say, I don't need anybody else's support, and that's fine, right? And that's also a possibility. And that's something that you could also go along with. But again, that's really just that's the political calculus right there. That's the political calculus. Those are the concessions. Like, for every joy, there's a price to be paid. Everything has a cost. Okay? Everything has a cost. So you can go the route of, I'm going to be an ethnic patriot, right? And that's fine. And hopefully that works out for you, right? But that's what it is. You're just an ethnic patriot. Or you could be an Africa patriot. But again, like I said, that means nothing. You understand? That means nothing. In the exam, and here's one of the issues. In the case of Ethiopia versus Egypt, they're threatening war. You understand? They're threatening war over this dam. In fact, I was looking at the article the brother sent me. Like I said, you could, I don't know if it's a brother or sister, but I keep saying that, but we're gonna say brother, okay? Look at the article they sent me, and Egypt was hiring some militia to attack the dam. You understand? Egypt is trying to position Sudan to go to war against against Ethiopia over this dam. Like, this is the real geopolitics going on right now. And so if you're just saying, I'm just pro-Africa, right? I'm just pro-Africa, right? What ends up being done is that now you have two African countries vying, and what are you going to do? Sit out? You're going to take no position? Meanwhile, one of them is offering 640 million watts, megawatts, sorry, 640 megawatts, or maybe 6,400 megawatts. I don't recall. But the point is, they're offering a whole bunch of megawatts, and you're sitting back and saying, "Oh, I'm for Africa," or "I'm not going to take sides," and so on and so forth. The philosophy is lacking. That's why I say, or that's why we have to do what our ancestors did, and that was that they rallied around a philosophy. Remember, Yoruba is a philosophy. Okay, remember that Yoruba is a philosophy, right? Remember that, even, and this is not just around our ancestors, because even America is a philosophy. You understand? It's a philosophy of free enterprise and white rule, and you know what I mean, religious freedom and white rule, but it's a philosophy. You understand? It's a pan-European expression. It's a philosophy. Every group, every nation is a philosophy. Unfortunately, the nations that we see ourselves in, for the most part, are just colonies. We're just post-colonies meant to extract resources to their former colonies, or to the colonizers. They're just meant to extract resources to the former colonies. And what we have to do is we have to say to ourselves, look, what about a philosophy where we instead have nations of higher culture? Okay, of African high culture. That means that our people are educated. It means that our people are fed. That means that our people have energy. That means that our people are doing well. What if we just had that? And that's what we could do. That's what we could do. But we have to concede to, well, are we a philosophical group? And if so, what is that philosophy? And of course, that philosophy should be the Ankobia, and that could come about through us seeking and developing the Bokos all over Africa, places of worship, okay, all over Africa, so that we can go on and build even bigger and better and coordinate even bigger and better than we ever have in recent history, okay? I mean, obviously, we probably can't surpass our great ancestors overnight, but we want to come damn close. All right. And that's what you read this book for. All right. If you're not reading, I don't know why you're trying to be leaving. All right, but let's keep going. You may hear something different from a spiritualist depending on the day of the weekend. So obviously he's talking about like pastors or something, right? So he's like, you may hear something different from pastors depending on the day of the weekend. But do you notice that they don't discuss anything with you or break down anything to you? Because if they break it down or if they give you dates, you're not going back next weekend, and that sucker isn't going to have any money. You have to understand that when you go to the places of worship, for the other people, you call it worship, but it's worship. When you go to their places of worship, they don't want you asking questions. They don't want to discuss anything with you. They don't tell you any dates. Go ahead and try to ask them, hey, what year was this? What year was this? If I tell you that, if I tell you that Donald Trump was the president of America, I can tell you the year. You know what I mean? I can say it was, I'm going to say 2016 to 2020, right? Or even 2017 to 2021, right? I can tell you the day and years, right? But then you go into these other stories and you're like, hey, what year was that? What year was it? Not what month, what year? No, I ain't got nothing for you. I ain't gonna discuss that with you, because they understand that if you were to really think about these kind of things, you would not show up, and you're not paid for it. I mean, look. Let me ask you this, man. You, because it's one of the most important aspects of these spiritual centers is the tithe. Okay, the tithe is, and that's one of the things I was really ashamed of when I was younger, because I grew up, I would say poor, right, or bills struggling and all that kind of stuff. Maybe it was middle class, who knows, but I would think it was poor, right? And notwithstanding that, single mother, my mother still gave in 10% to the church, possibly till the day she passed, and I mean she was doing pretty well for herself, she was doing pretty well for herself up until yeah. No, I realized I never said that about Mother Pass, right? Just let that slip. Should I delete this? Nah, I'm good. All right, but you know, she never she you know, she probably was doing a little better than the other people in the church, you know, a little bit, right? And so the pastor, you know, definitely liked the fact that she was buying into the tithe thing, you know, but she wasn't questioning anything. You know, the pastor wasn't breaking down anything. He was giving, like, I went to the church a few times, and, you know, he was a funny guy, nice, charismatic guy, you know, fat from, you know, other people's money. And he doesn't explain anything. He's just, you know, oh, you know, ladies, you know, you want to make sure you go, you know, you want to make sure you shower because men are, you know, just funny, you know, comical. He relates the Bible or whatever, and people like it. But he's not really going to go and break down stuff, because if he breaks down, then you're saying to yourself, you know, if this is a book of lies, why am I paying you? Why am I putting 10% of my income to something that's not even true? You know? Why is it that you're outlining a plan for me in the sky, but there's nothing in the sky? You understand? That there's like below this earth is not some, you know, torture chamber waiting for me. It is a molten core of that is, you know, more or less keeping the planet intact in a sense. You know what I'm saying? You know, and above us in the sky is just a bunch of stars. You know, it's not going to tell you that, because, you know, if you say to yourself, hey, well, okay, so heaven, man, can I see it with a telescope? If it's up there, can I see it with a telescope? Because telescopes can make you see things. And you say, no, it's just too far. Okay, it's too far. So how the freak do I get there? You understand? If it's too far for me to see with my eye, as far as the light can travel, how in the freak do I get there? Because obviously you don't. You understand? I mean, even, like you have to realize that they're not gonna have you asking questions. But, you know, we're gonna keep going. I'm trying to actually be quick, and you know, I guess I'm not really too quick. Anyway, so you must understand that every group of people are together because of philosophical reasons. You don't have to write it down in a book. It's automatic. That if a group of people stay together, there's a philosophical basis for their being together. It's equally a given that there are an ethical reason for at least an ethical reasons. There are ethical reasons, at least an ethical reason for their being together. They set up a set of morals, and that set of morals becomes a code. Each person is expected to behave according to his or her position within that compact of people. No one can deny this. So let me just articulate that a little bit, right? No one can deny the code, and the, you know, I'll say it this way, right? Like I said about treason, right? What constitutes treason? And what is the penalty for treason? You know? I want y'all to, like, sometimes I watch these white sci-fi shows, and because they talk, and what they do is they handle a lot of, you know, what if situations, or, like, you know, like war related situations or whatever. But the point being that human beings do not respect the lives of other human beings, if we're being honest, but only to the extent that they follow a code. You understand? In the sense of, if you are living with somebody, right? Or if you're living near somebody, or you're living in a community with somebody, and that somebody is like waiting outside the schools to kidnap the kids, you probably kill the person. If he's waiting outside the schools to kidnap the kids, you probably kill him. You don't respect life. You respect the philosophy, the code. You understand? And every people have their own code, to the point where, you know, it's like even this, you know, I ordered some food from this African restaurant, right? And they give me like a fat, I ordered some beef. I think it was beef, right? And one of the pieces of the beef that they offer me is this rubbery piece of fat. Just this rubbery piece of fat. Don't got no business being in my plate. Because I'm not gonna chew on no rubbery piece of fat just just cuz. I feel my personal feelings is maybe they maybe this was like something they did, like something they do on the continent when you don't have that much real meat available, and you say to yourself, well, at least you could get a rubbery piece of fat to eat with. But I'm in the middle of United Snakes, and we got real meat available, so you don't have to put that rubbery piece of fat in my plate. I actually complained about it, and one of the sisters, nice sister, on Twitter, she said, eat it. And I was like, yeah, right. But the point is that, that's something that the people there might believe in. There are people elsewhere in other parts of the world, some in Africa, some in Asia, some probably in America, whatever, that believe in eating insects. There are people in America, in Europe, whatever, believe in eating. I won't just say Europe. Well, probably just Europe. I don't know. But they believe in eating humans. And the reality is that there's that kind of living, that kind of lifestyle. There's a whole bunch of different things underlying your way of life. How you live is there's a whole philosophical underpinning to your life. From down to how you dress, how women dress differently from men, or how women dress the same as men. How many people you marry, how many people you don't marry, what age you marry, what age you don't marry. What constitutes consent, what constitutes sex, what constitutes, should people go through schooling? What kind of schooling? What kind of language should they speak? There's so much philosophy going on in your life. And that's why, and you have to recognize that. If you don't recognize that, what you're going to do is you're going to end up going to, that's why they say, when you travel, you can learn a bit, because you're going to come into this culture shock. Somebody was giving me an example of some sister who was in Africa who's, she's wearing her pom-pom shorts, or she was wearing shorts, allegedly she was just wearing shorts that weren't too high up. But obviously they probably were, because somebody walked up and covered her. Gave her, gave her something to cover up herself. She was probably just showing off her legs, and in America it's just innocent. So in her mind it was just innocent. But in some parts of the world it's not innocent. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you walking around naked? But I mean, there's so much going on in terms of philosophy. And here's the thing, though, that there are stages to the consciousness. This is what I want you to understand. There are stages to the philosophy, to the point where it's not that simple. Okay? It really isn't that simple. It's a sense that, some people were talking about how in Africa, the showing up late is obviously something, but also the business, the entrepreneurial side is just not there completely, not completely developed in the same sense, right? And because of that, you're gonna run into a lot of difficulties. You're gonna run into a lot of infrastructure problems, because again, remember, these were former colonies meant to just extract resources. So they don't for instance, when I visit my grandmother, right? My grandmother, she was living at this address for 80 something years, didn't even know the address. And in fact, it doesn't even have an address. It was more like you gave a general area. Like if a taxi was taking me home, you gave a general area, and then we would drive down where the lane where it's on, and then they'd say, which of these houses is yours? Which of these houses are you going to? And I'd be like, oh, this one, right? But it doesn't have any numeric, you can't really send mail to it, that's a problem. But again, that comes from the fact that in a colony, you didn't really receive personal mail. You didn't really receive personal packages from Amazon, that wasn't a thing. You were just supposed to go into the mines and survive, survive the best you could. So, what we can do is we can go to Africa. But here's the thing, though. The postage system, that's an ancient philosophy, it's an ancient practice, You see it in ancient Egypt, you see it in ancient Persia, you see it in ancient, so on and so forth. And a lot of those ancient places, they obviously had African administrators. The point being, though, that you can't, we have to return to that level of being, that level of consciousness, that level of professionalism, and we can. But we have to understand that there's so like, and that's the thing I want you to understand, that you have so much opportunity waiting for you. Okay, there's so much opportunity waiting for you. I was trying to go house shopping. I tell this story sometimes. Trying to go house shopping, and I'm looking at how they're selling houses, and the marketing is just trash. It's like, here's what your house looks like from a mile away, and here's what a little corner in your house looks like. Doesn't make any damn sense. It's not enticing. It's not real advertising, right? And it's just a matter of how the website is formulated. Easily, if you get possession of like a real estate firm, you could sell those homes. But again, remember this too: that a lot of people there cannot afford the homes. So who would you be selling the homes to? You know, there's a lot of complications. There's a lot of complicated things going on, and you're gonna have to build up slowly. But that's where we're at, and you realize that this is something that we as a people have to undertake. That is transforming a colony into a nation. And of course, you know, that's what America did, technically speaking. But again, America came with the philosophy where they outlined their, you know, like they had the Federalist Papers, they had the so on and so forth. They outlined, you know, oh, well, we need entrepreneurs, we need this, we need that, we need professionals, we need blah, blah, blah. And that's where you come in. You are the professionals. You are the entrepreneurs. You're not the Americans. You're not the blah, blah, blah. You're the Ancobia. Okay? And that's something that you want to cherish as well. But I'm going to continue. That's why I said it's a lie for Eurasians to be the first to deal with philosophy. It doesn't take a great thinker to come up with this conclusion. As the Eurasians weren't the first people in the world, then them living together philosophically could not have been the first, and therefore their writing about it could not have been the first philosophical concept when the ancient people along the Nile called them Ethiopians, Egyptians, the people of Ptah by their mother name, the Sudanese, Ugandans, because the beginning of the Nile is in Uganda and Ethiopia. Those people have already written in terms of their theosophical and philosophical beliefs. Now you notice that though, right? He's like, hey, look, these are all one people. The Ethiopia, Sudanese. Look how he was Ethiopia, Egypt, Sudanese. They're one people. Ugandans, one people. The Nilotic people. Now, obviously, there is foreign, influx or even something else going on. Who knows? But, notwithstanding that, we have to realize, among some of these people, obviously, right? We have to realize that, but again, it's about the administration, and I want you to understand that a lot of everything is about the administration, because a lot of us will not work independently without administration, without leadership. Without leadership, a lot of us will not work independently. I would tell you guys a story about that maybe another time, right? But because the beginning of the Nile is blah, blah, blah. So let's keep going. Now you got into those people. So we can go back to the Twa and the Hutu people, the smallest people on the face of this Ptah, right? And we can see them presenting long before writing as we know it, going back to the archaeological form. We can see the Twa and Hutu people not only in the central part of Eastern Africa, but we saw them and still see them at the southern tip of Africa, which they themselves called at one time Monomotapa, before we are now hearing Azania and Namibia. So Azania is what we call South Africa. So he's like, even before it was Azania and Namibia, we called it Monomotapa, right? And he says, I still don't call it that because African people have changed the name from Monomotapa because Eurasians said Mwene Mutape, the ruler of Monomotapa, was a bad man as he killed the missionaries. He was a good man. So he's like, the Eurasians said that Monomotope was a bad man because he killed the missionaries. And so Baba Ben is like, no, he was a good man. You understand? And the name should go back to remind young Africans of that part of the world. One of the obligations that they have. And one of the obligations that they have is to learn how to kill Eurasians. It is equally your obligation because one day you're going to have to do it. You understand? And like, I don't know if I'm going to, it looks like I'm not going to. So there's this story. I mean, so here's what happened to this president of Haiti, right? he's probably minding his business. His security is faced with some foreigners, some white folk, and some black folk too. But some white folk who are like, hey, we're the DAA, basically we're the United States Drug Enforcement Agency, right? Drop your weapons. We're the United States Drug Enforcement Agency. And the security drops their weapons. See, they know how to kill Africans. They know how to, because and you see the lack of discipline, and that's partly why I don't even try to say too much rough stuff on this line. I try not to say too much rough stuff unless I'm in private. But even then, I don't even try to say that kind of stuff because, you have to ask yourself, if your people are going to disarm themselves just because a white man comes around, then do you want, how would you fight for those people? Why would you lead those people? You understand? Now the facts are not all out, but it seems like this was an inside job. Okay? It seems like this was an inside job in the sense that a lot of his friends seem to have their hands, a lot of the president's friends seem to have their hands in the planning plot, but here's another thing too. They caught two white boys hanging out, hiding in a ravine, right? And the white boys, what they did with the white boys was, they turned them over to the authorities. And now, who's to say that these white boys won't live to kill another day? But again, I think that ties back to an older podcast where I discussed that very thing, where the people do not know what to do with resources. They don't know what to do with people. They don't know what to do. You know, this is why I say administration is so important, because the administrator, the leader, is going to know more. The whole point of having a leader is somebody like if you're sitting on top of, you got to think about this way. Think about the castle, right? Where do you build the castle? Right? Let's say you have a mountainous island or whatever. Where do you build the castle? Do you build it on do you build it at the lowest point? Do you build it at the highest point? Do you build it furthest from the center, or do you build it closest to the center? Where do you build the castle? You try to work out, well, what's the highest? You try to work out the best ratio between the highest and the most central location. And when you do that, you position somebody intelligent there. Why do you position someone intelligent there? Because now they're at a high and central location, right? That means that they can get communications easier, right? And they can see farther, right? And they're more protected. You want them to be more protected, see farther, and be in more communication with different parts. But here's the thing, here's the catch. The person who is not at that same position as the castle, or someone who's let's say at the coast or whatever, they might know a lot about the coast, or let's say they're the eastern coast. They might know a lot about the eastern coast, but what will they know about the western? You understand? What will they know about what's going on in the north? What do they know about what's going on in the south? You understand? They might know more, but then here's the gist. Now, they can take that message from the east and send it to the center. And the people in the south can send it to the center, so on and so forth. And then that person in the center, or those people in the center, can then, decide on a way forward, a move forward, right? But if you don't have that kind of, even that basic kind of infrastructure of communicating and having this person on top and having this person in the lead and having this person administrate, then you're going to have trouble. So the people in the eastern coast, let's say they're farmers near the eastern coast, they're going to know so much. But if you up in a mountain and you could watch the whole community, you could see what's going on in the west. While the west is burning and the east is doing fine, you could allocate the resources of the east to the west. You understand? Or you could evacuate the people from the west to the east. But if everything's going fine in the east, you're making decisions in the east, right? And your decisions are, well, everything's going good. Let's just throw this stuff away, right? Or if you're in the west and you're like, well, everything's going bad, we got nothing to do, we just surrender, right? You're not you have to understand that the horizon and the intelligence, there's so much that goes into what needs to be done, but you cannot expect the people on the bottom to know. You can't expect the farmer in the coast to know what to do. And this is why you have to position yourself or reposition yourself into that sort of a leadership position. You want to do that. And I'm telling you, what is most important, like Sankara was saying, get yourself a political education. Okay, get yourself a political education. Hold on. So Baba Ben continues. He says, after an incident of Eurasian police brutality against an African, everybody was wondering whether the brothers were going to challenge the Eurasian police in open arms, since their police had shown the amount of military hardware they have in hand. If they were found innocent, I don't think the brothers there were stupid enough to attack the police in their most militarized city where the incident occurred. They have more than one city in any of their states or countries. You attack any place where the cracker was and is. Maybe their capital. It doesn't matter. A cracker is a pecker. So what he's saying there is this, if you're going to retaliate, you don't have to retaliate against the offending party. You just got to retaliate where the people are weak. Because here's the thing too. Let me tell you this right here. And this is something I was thinking about just now, just earlier, before I came onto this podcast. I said to myself, these white boys, when they kill a black man, right? They don't be killing black people that's important. Or even black people related to anything that they might necessarily be slighted against. They are killing black nobodies. Like, who were these people before they died? I don't know. Were they radicals? No. It's kind of like people demonize Bill Cosby's pound cake speech, but listen to what Bill Cosby was saying. He says, and he's out of prison now, so I guess I could say whatever I want, right? No, I'm joking. But the pound cake speech, he's talking about some like, basically he's like, why are people complaining about black people, like black people dying? And we complain and we say, oh well, why they shoot the guy over a pound cake, And then Bill Cosby says, well, what was he doing with the pound cake? Like basically this. It's not a real person, but let's say there's this black person who steals pound cake, which is something trivial, and then he's killed by the police, and which is actually a disproportionate response, obviously, and like I said, people come together based on philosophy. If this were a white person, you have what is called cruel and unusual punishment. So the white government set up such a way. The philosophy of the white government is, do not do anything cruel and unusual to other white people. But of course, this is not a white person, so you steal pound cake, you get shot. But this is obviously an exaggeration. But all the same, Bill Cosby's like, yeah, I mean, what was he doing with the pound cake? What was he doing with the pound cake? And you might be like, okay, well, maybe you find it funny, maybe you don't. Maybe it's an extreme example. Maybe it is kind of an extreme example. But what you want to grasp from that though is this: that the guy who's stealing pound cake, right, isn't really anybody we know. He's just somebody who stole pound cake. Sometimes it's just some and of course as Bill Cosby is saying, maybe he's killed because he's a criminal, right? Although it's a small crime, a petty crime, but it's still a crime. And here's the thing, like I said, it's a philosophy. There's a philosophy going on. In this community, I want you to understand that, because we're talking about America. I'm talking America right now, right? But in this community, one of the things that they want is law and order among black people. They want black people in check. They don't even want you touching a pound cake. You understand? Like, that's the philosophy that they're working on. They're saying, look, I don't even want you touching a pound cake. But why do I say this? I'm saying that, they're like, look, a Negro is a Negro is a, N-word or whatever, But they're like, look, it don't matter as long, because here's the thing, when they killing these random black folk, it's still having an effect on your way of moving. Because you say to yourself, I'm not even going to touch a pound cake now. You understand? When they're doing this to random black folk, it's controlling you too. You understand? Like I said, I went to Jamaica one time and my grandmother was like, man, that police brutality down there. Woo! Don't know how you handle it. You understand? When the police brutality, protests were going on, people were calling me like, "Yo, stay safe." Like it's having an effect, even though it's a random people. Now, if it goes one way, how don't it go the other way? That's all Baba Ben is saying. That's all Baba Ben is saying. But again, but here's my concession. I'll concede this. This is white man's nation. You understand? It's going to be, and it's going to be for a long time. And if it's not his nation, it's going to be another Eurasian group's nation. And that's really how you have to look at it. But that's for obviously another time. Other than that, though, I appreciate everybody for listening. Thank you so much for listening to this live. Hopefully, I can get to another time. I guess I won't talk about the administration question, but it is an important question. Maybe I'll type it up. But, long story. Actually, I'll just say long story short. When you have people, when you don't give people, like people are not going to just work without instruction. Like they're not going to necessarily do a lot of things unless somebody comes along and lets them know to do that kind of stuff. So for instance, the roads in Africa or even the roads in America are not going to be swept by anybody. Nobody's going to sweep the roads except the city. Or if somebody comes along and pays somebody in the community to do it. Or if somebody comes along and tells somebody in the community to do it. But no one's just going to go out and sweep roads. Now, maybe they do sweep roads, but again, it's like there's something involved there. You get what I'm saying? And it doesn't just have to be roads. It could be, collecting rain for the community. Like bigger things, like bigger projects, collecting rain for the communities, building new homes in the community, advertising the community on social media or whatever. Anything that there's a lot of things that need to be done and can be done, but you will need that leadership to do it. And of course, that leadership should be paid, or that leadership might, partly because that leadership also might have to pay people to do these things. So there's a lot that goes into the organization of humans. And like I said, the more you look into it, the more you look at us as another form of animals, the more you'll realize that, there's a lot that we can do and accomplish, but you have to take that part. So I bid you farewell. Thank you so much for listening. And of course, as always, check out the other programs on KWAZ Radio, especially Bit of Medicine Podcast and the Harsh Reality Podcast. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to this podcast and those, and of course the other podcasts that, constantly support this channel. And until next time, Shem Yem Hotep, Anku Ja, Seneb Neb, Amen, Ma'at, Dua Netcher.